And rolling.
Welcome to the Filmlings Podcast.
Buddy, what comes after rolling?
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
Ready for clap. Clap received. Also, is there an outline I should be looking at for this? Or are we just going?
I have some stuff here. I can post it for you if you want to look at it, or if you just want to be guided.
Man, if the intended experience is to have you be the guide, then I'm fine with that. I'm good with that.
Okay, here, let me post this section, and then I will have my fun and games saved for myself. Okay, so this is the history of the show, and it's in reverse order, so you'll want to start at the bottom, of course. Okay, let's see, how do we want to get into this? Hello, welcome to the Filmlings Podcast.
Yes, welcome to the Filmlings Podcast. I'm Alex.
And I'm Jonathan. And if you are here,
you've fallen into our trap.
You have. So, fact of the matter is, we are on indefinite hiatus, but unlike other, things that just end and you're like, oh, well, that's just old now, I thought it might be a good opportunity to let you know, if you're stumbling upon us, what the show is or was, and all the things. We recorded this show for 8.5 years, and we talked about a lot of films. And so if you would like a overview of what it is that we talked about, so you can dive in, the show is very much intended to be a kind of pick and choose your conversations, topics you're interested in kind of a show. So this is a bit of a guide to that, even though we're not recording new episodes. There was a lot to go back through, and so this will hopefully help you find something that you might be interested in.
And I don't know if we talked about this enough. It was a bigger point really early on in the show, but I think it kind of faded as we learned that a lot of people who were listening weren't watching the movies. But we were really trying to get people to watch the movies we were talking about, either beforehand or afterwards. Because the whole idea, I think, this is me trying to remember, when we started, was kind of having it be like how the film classes that we were taking at the time, or just before then, because we had just graduated college, basically. Or you might have still been in college. I don't remember.
No, I was just out.
You were just out as well. But it was kind of based off of that idea and how we kind of learned about movies there. Because you would watch them and talk about them, and then you would also read other things about them. Like I'd read reviews from the time. I'd read retrospectives of them. And oftentimes, it wouldn't just be about the one movie. It would be about a group of movies. It would be about a body of work from one actor or one director or a general movement of film. And we kind of took that idea and rolled it into the podcast format, which was kind of already exploded, but still exploding at the time. Mm-hmm. And especially into the kind of like the movie review. But we weren't quite really movie review. We were trying to be something else.
I always described it more as film analysis than reviews. Yeah, so the main thing, like Alex was saying, is that our niche that we tried to do was to cover more than one film at a time, as opposed to like deep diving on one film. We wanted to, what I later kind of branded the show as, exploring the intersections of cinema. So films that are related, like film doesn't exist in a vacuum, and how we look at films together kind of influences how we see films individually too. And so whether that was talking about a director's, multiple films in a director's work, or of films that were related by themes or in series or stuff like that, we wanted to talk about films as they related to each other. Other than that, it was a lot of just us watching new films we hadn't seen before, or things like that. And so I will say, yeah, there was a little bit of the follow along with us, although at the beginning that was pretty impractical. It was pretty impractical for ourselves, and we'll get into how that started and changed and stuff like that. And we had some guidelines and stuff like that. Things changed, and Anyway, whatever we did never really took off with other people, but it was very good kind of study format for us. I think I learned so much going through it this way.
We were so specific in what we were trying to do. And I think kind of part of what we ended up with is that we came up with something that worked really well for us and learning about movies the way we wanted to learn. And I think that a lot of other people who would have been interested in it, either one, didn't find it because what we were doing was not good for SEO.
Yeah.
It was too much at once, and a lot of our buzzwords like intersectional and analysis appeal to people who like watch NPR and people who and that's one, not a big audience to begin with. Sorry, NPR, but it's not like big banger podcast numbers like the talk shows and stuff. But it's also people who, if they were interested in learning about movies, would kind of just have already done it or be doing it on their own or be going through film school. So it was.
We were also halfway between a popular film podcast and a cinephile podcast.
Yeah,
we never
really
did
committed
pop culture, but we tried to do a good mix of foreign art house and major American blockbusters and stuff like that. So even though we only talked about one Marvel film in the entire run of the show, and that was one of the second to last film of the 525 films. We still tried to make it have enough that people were familiar with to get them connected to old films and new films and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And this and another thing that I think slowed down the growth of the podcast. The podcast did grow. We do have many more people listening now than we did when we started, but it's still not a large number. One of the things that I think made the podcast more interesting, and I remember I was so happy with the idea I came up with at the time, but something that I think, again, was not good for SEO. Although that eventually we just did not make that a goal of the podcast. We decided we didn't care about that.
Yeah, we also siloed ourselves
kind of for ourselves.
Pretty well.
But we like the fourth episode ever. It's called Lost at Sea. And I thought it was so interesting at the time. It was our first theme episode. Like the first three before that had all been directors. And we did a theme episode. I thought it was so interesting and unique to kind of look at these survival movies. And it was very interesting. But we also started doing a lot of theme episodes. Maybe not like a lot, but quite a few. And I think if we had stuck to something that branded itself well for clickability, like always focusing on an actor, always focusing on a personality, that we could kind of shape the whole podcast around and tell their story, I think that's would have been more clickable than what we did. But what we did with the theme episodes also made the podcast what it was and gave it like that uniqueness to it, where we got to dig into cinema from these different angles, and we kind of got to explore movies beyond just where they fall in one person's story, where they fall in the audience's story, who kind of interact with movies in this group, or fans of genres or periods of time. So and I think we ended up making a lot of choices like that were, at the risk of sounding more snobbish than we already do, were built around artistic and intellectual integrity rather than social media optimization.
Yeah, which I don't feel too bad about. I mean, it might have been cool if it blew up, but also when you chase the algorithm, then you become slave to the algorithm. And then the show would have been something that, I don't know if I would have enjoyed it as much if we were chasing that clickability as I did when we built it as something that was like to feed our own desire to learn about film.
I think it just wouldn't have worked. Even if it, let's say we didn't change anything about the show. We didn't change anything about what we covered, but it got really popular. I don't think it would have worked because I think we would have burnt out so fast. Or I still can't believe that the first year we did it, we did an episode every week. That means we watched 3 movies a week, at least 3 movies a week. Sometimes there were only 2,
Absolutely
but typically 3 movies a week, and then somehow spoke about it for like a whole 1 to 2 hours, which, by the way, when we started was one of the hardest parts, finding enough words to say for an hour and a half about a movie. Very challenging.
I remember just getting to the end of a conversation and being like, well, we got to say something else. Like we're not going to fill our runtime. What are we going to talk about?
There was always a lot of talk about trying to fill runtime. And I will say at a certain point, we got to a point where we were going way too long too. But it was a balancing act for sure. Like that first episode we did on Spielberg, I'm terrified to ever go back and listen to it because it was almost like pulling teeth trying to get the words to come out.
But on the other hand, I think that there were some things that we were discovering in those early stages that even though we weren't really good at talking about them, I think that there was a lot of like freshness. Like I remember the point that we came up with about Spielberg, where in almost every one of his films, the first like 10 to 20 minutes is like a little microcosm of the rest of the film. And I thought that was such a really interesting point that I had never thought of before. And I never heard it come up in film class or something, but it was something that was really, that we brought up later on in the show and stuff like that. So there was a lot of good discovery happening, even though we were still learning how to talk about it.
Well, in a lot of ways, we were still just learning how to really like speak about things intellectually.
And to just see and analyze.
Yeah. And that's maybe one of the biggest takeaways from the show is I've just become, and I'm sure you've experienced this too, Jonathan, just a much more confident speaker and discusser. Like I'm able to speak about things confidently and hold a conversation that's intellectual without necessarily stuttering over my words. Granted, right now, I've been awake for about 20 hours. Almost more than that. And I worked a 12-hour shift not too long ago. So I'm still stuttering a little bit, but not as much as I would have been had I not done 8 years of this podcast.
Yeah. All right, well, let's do... I do kind of want to just go through the whole kind of history of the show, give people touch points of what we did and kind of what our thought processes were and where they can find some interesting things. So yeah, like Alex said, we started the show back in 2017. I think I had graduated in early 2016. Alex had graduated a little bit before that. Hi, if you don't know us, we went to middle school and high school together. And we made a lot of short films. We had a lot of good times.
We had a YouTube channel by the name. You can't find it; it's unlisted. So I'm fine saying the name of Steel Dagger, which is Jonathan's middle name, and
that's the Steel
my
part.
initials.
My middle name is not Dagger.
That'd be cool. I mean, Steel's pretty cool too. My middle name is Dagger. Characters written by a 12-year-old. And my initials rearranged essentially to kind of be the first part of Dagger, which in retrospect was an overcomplication.
Oh yeah.
And
could have just picked a cool word.
You could have just picked a cool word, man. And we made a lot of YouTube videos together in short skits and some movies.
We did not blow up. They were also not popular.
No, they were also not popular. No, as it turns out, we weren't really, I mean, we were kids, but we weren't really like the internet sensations we thought we were, or I thought we were at least. And I was trying very hard to emulate other YouTubers of the time.
That was like
and
Ryan
Jonathan
Higa
was not.
era.
So, that's like early YouTube, guys. YouTube. But it was a lot of fun to do it. And we both ended up going to film school in different places. And then after film school, we both ended up working in media production.
Yeah.
And at that time, I was getting really into podcasts, especially because where I was working, I just had all this time to listen to podcasts. So we got together and we had the idea of let's do a podcast. Let's do it about movies. How should we format it? We had a big meeting about it. We were very almost too self-important about it, but it was fun. Where we set up this, and we were like, who should we start with? And we settled on Spielberg because people know Spielberg.
And then the idea was like from the beginning, it was we would have director episodes or we would have theme episodes. Like Alex said, we did that Lost at Sea episode was like number 4.
Originally, the intention was to only do director episodes. And then later on, like really early on, but not right away, I pitched the idea of Lost at Sea.
Oh, okay. Because that was super early. I don't remember it being
a
director only episode at first. I think that's just the easiest way to group films right off the bat. But yeah, so we started, and so we did Spielberg, and then we did some of our favorite directors. Actually, we did Carruth like really, really early.
Yeah,
because I was just really interested in Shane Carruth.
Wild choice to start off the podcast with, and this was before his controversy stuff.
Yeah. So yeah, we did Spielberg, and then we did this really weird opening sequence. We're just gonna run through the opening sequence here. So we did Spielberg, and then we did 2 obscure directors that each of us were interested in. We did Jim Jarmusch, that Alex was interested in, and I had never heard of before. And
do you want to know why I was interested in him, Jonathan?
Why?
Because I had recently subscribed to AFI magazine, and they had done an article about him in that magazine. And then I watched Broken Flowers, and I was like, oh, he's brilliant. But he is a really good director.
But he's off the beaten path for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of my tastes early on were very dictated by like, this is what somebody who is really into film and knows a lot about film would like. Very much so.
Yeah, and I'm a very big like kind of abstract dig for it. If I don't understand it right away, but I feel like I might, then I'm probably going to be into it. So that's why I picked Shane Carruth with Primer and Upstream Color, which are just like weird sci-fi movies in very like non-linear fashion. And then we did our Lost at Sea episode, and then we did 2 popular directors that we both like. Well, not back to back, but we did Christopher Nolan and we did Wes Anderson, which are I'm the Christopher Nolan poster boy and Alex is the Anderson poster boy, and that was a running theme through the show for a long time.
Oh yeah.
And we also did I only mentioned this particular episode. Okay, I'm going to mention the next 2 episodes. The first one, episode 5 or 6 or something, was Pride and Prejudice, which I mentioned.
Pride and Prejudice and Prejudice and Prejudice?
Yes.
Or Pride and Prejudice, Pride and Prejudice, Pride and Prejudice. I can't remember. It was like repeated like multiple times.
I think it was Prejudice and Prejudice and Prejudice. I don't remember. Or maybe I just did like ×3 on that one. But I mentioned that episode because that was when we didn't implement it right away, but we learned that we needed to summarize the films because Pride and Prejudice is such a plot-heavy story that we spent so much of that episode just describing the events that happened that we barely talked about the films themselves.
Yeah. Well, especially because Jane Austen movies are essentially just gossip playing out in real time.
Yeah.
And I don't say that as a diss. That's one of the appeals of them. But it really, like, you gotta know the play-by-play.
Yeah. And then after the Pride and Prejudice episode, and I promise we're not going to go through the entire show episode by episode, but we did a Batman episode, which featured our friend Aaron Johnson.
Oh, that's right. We used to have guests.
Yeah, I mentioned that because we had guests for the first several years, which were all just our friends. And that was one of the things about the show that probably would have helped us is if we had collaborated with other podcasts. But I was not super interested in doing that. It probably could have worked in some way or other. But it's also hard to podcast collab when you're already a duo podcast.
Yeah, especially a duo podcast that isn't in the same place.
Yeah.
Like a lot of podcasts, and this has become more prevalent now, as almost the standard podcast format is actually a video podcast that just has audio uploaded later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very, it just, I think we would have had to have compromised a lot. And at that point in time, especially, we would not have, because we were so dead set on the thing we wanted to do.
Yeah, we were still trying to build it into our thing. But we did have our friends on sometimes. So all the guests were just people that we knew and who liked to talk about movies with us.
Yes.
So that was our first guest episode. Also, the big highlight of season 1 was the world tour. So again, we were recording every single week, and we took 10 weeks out of the year to highlight a different country and their films, or a big film movement that came out of that country.
It's our first series, yeah.
And we didn't. Part of the idea was that was just for us to learn about these countries, because we had we'd gone through film school, so we had touched on things here or there, but there was still a lot of like film buffy stuff that we didn't know. And so this was, honestly, the world tour opened my eyes up a lot to what film could be and what film outside of America was.
Oh man, we really liked the Korean one. The Korean episode was so good.
We did some more Korea stuff later on, but yeah,
yes,
we just learned that Koreans
just
are
fell
brutal.
in love with those directors. And I don't remember if that was before or after Snowpiercer came out. And
I think it was after. I think I knew Snowpiercer by then.
Oh yeah, because Snowpiercer was 2013,
and we definitely saw that in theaters, probably together at that point.
Very likely, probably with James.
Yeah,
especially if it was like 2013. But yeah, that was when Bong Joon-ho really like became a big name in the American cinephile world.
Yeah. But that was my first exposure to the French New Wave. It was my first
really,
dive.
That's the first. Oh yeah.
It was. I maybe hit like I said, we touched on a couple of these things in film school, but I hadn't really seen a lot of them. It was a good introduction to German expressionism. I was really fascinated by the slow, thoughtful films of Iran at that time. So there was just a lot of really interesting stuff came out of that. Bollywood, which we have a complicated relationship with.
Yeah, I'm still not totally sold.
I'm way more sold on it than Alex is. Bahubali.
And the crazy thing was that
is now one of my family's favorite films.
That episode was so popular. And I swear it was so popular. It was our most popular episode for years. And it was so popular, I believe, because it just had Bollywood in the title. And there's a lot of Bollywood fans out there. And they saw it and they clicked it.
Yeah, because Bollywood has one of the biggest fan bases in the world. But also, every time we talk about Bollywood, we get lashback because we don't cover it very well. So we stopped doing that.
No, we didn't. Yeah. It was really fun and that's kind of like, I think especially early on, the World Series is like my ideal of what the podcast could be, of exploring brand new stuff not brand new stuff, but stuff we hadn't been exposed to yet, almost every week. And I think at the end of the World Series, I think I would have just totally gone to a foreign film format and been totally happy with that.
Yeah.
But at the time, I might have been a little burnt out on it too. So,
yeah. So the other thing that played into that in the first year is we did the Samurai and Sombreros series, which was, so the world tour was, we have what we call on the show like major series, or eventually became courses towards the end of the show, and minor series. And the minor series were usually like 3 episodes, and they were spaced out.
Not back to back. Yeah. They'd be like 2 or 3 months apart.
Yeah. So the Samurai and Sombreros series was all about, because we realized that a lot of Western films were influenced by Akira Kurosawa films. And we're like, film buffs like Akira Kurosawa. And of course, he's great. And so we did a whole series of episodes that would compare a Akira Kurosawa film to the American remake or adaptation, which included things that people are very familiar with. Like we ended with Star Wars because Star Wars was heavily influenced by Hidden Fortress. We also covered...
I'm glad that as the way we got Star Wars into the show was that way. That was a very Filmlings thing to do.
Yeah.
Was to bring in a pop culture thing and connect it to something that was a foreign movie.
Exactly.
That if it played anywhere in the US nowadays, would be in an art house setting.
Yeah. And that's kind of my ideal with the show, was just kind of using popular films to broaden people's experience of films. Like my whole thing is, if the show helps someone watch a film that they would have never watched without having listened to it, then that's a win in my book. But we also covered A Fistful of Dollars, which was the Yojimbo remake, and The Outrage, which is a film that no one's ever seen and probably doesn't really need to, but that was an adaptation of Rashomon.
With Captain Kirk in it.
No, The Outrage didn't have Captain Kirk in it.
Mm-hmm.
It was Paul Newman, wasn't it?
Oh, I'm thinking of a different thing. Okay, yeah, I guess it was Paul Newman. Never mind.
Anyway, that was not the best adaptation. Okay, yeah. So there was a lot of other stuff that we covered in season 1 because it was a jam-packed season.
50. I believe we just did 50 episodes in the first season.
We
took
rounded
2 weeks
it off.
But it was straight up like probably an average of like 2.5 or 2.75 episodes a week for 50 episodes in a row. And it was a lot. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And
I'm
so
still amazed
starting in
that
the
we did
next
that.
year, we started doing it every other week.
Yeah, which was still a lot.
Still a lot.
felt great for us at the time.
Oh man, half the time back.
I think the very first thing that we did that season is we started off, because a lot of times we would put our major series right at the front of the season or the year.
Yeah, we started doing them in like every January.
Yeah, so we started off season 2 with The Hitchhike, which was a deep dive into Alfred Hitchcock films. We covered 15 of his canon, which is most of it, and that was a really cool exploration. We broke it up thematically into the different things that Hitchcock does a lot, like The Wrong Man. We talked about the various female characters. We talked about the villains, each getting their own episode. And so we were both pretty familiar with Hitchcock, but that was a really cool way to look at his work and also his influence, because again, we do a lot of times where we are reading about it and we're finding where that influence has spread to other directors and stuff like that.
That series was such an academic workout for me. It was tough. And I don't remember. I remember just having a hard time, especially towards the end, because we had never spent so much time on one subject. And because the world tour had been a bunch of different things.
Yeah.
They were connected by a central idea of like exploring new countries, but each week was a new country. So you kind of had a new thing to come to come to.
And
that
oftentimes
episode
it was
about
like a
each
whole new movement or
week. Yeah,
style.
it'd be a whole new movement. There might be connections to the other week, but that just gave you more stuff to talk about. But with the Hitchhike, it was maybe the deepest we had to get. And I really do mean had to, in order to hit time every week on one director. And if there was a director for it, Hitchcock's a really good one because there's so much ink spilt on him.
Yeah.
He has such a good, wide, deep body of work. But even then, each week, it was, especially towards the end, it was kind of rough to get towards the end of each episode. That was a drain towards the end. I think the finished product was worth it. But
don't undersell it. I think there's a lot of good stuff in there.
But just to say, like, that we had kind of up to that point, we had been almost padded by the idea that we weren't really coming back to the same idea. But as the podcast went on, that essentially the experience we had on Hitchcock became more and more common, where we had to come back to the same idea over and over and find ways to approach the same idea from different angles. And I think kind of with Hitchcock is where you get the origin of the later series idea.
Yeah. The courses.
The courses idea. Yeah.
Yeah. That was definitely along those lines. But yeah, I really liked diving into each of them and just picking apart the technique, because you can look at Hitchcock's technique for a long time and pull stuff out of it. And then the minor series that we did that was a pretty fun one is this, also one of the most arbitrary film selections we've ever done, which is that Alex and I at some point got into a disagreement about which Hepburn is the best, Catherine or Audrey. And it is a completely moot point because they are completely different kinds of actresses.
They're not really connected. Yeah.
But we managed to pick 3 films from each of their canons and pair them up as like we made them like rounds in a boxing match, and we just talked about films that they're both in that are unrelated to each other, but that we just wanted to talk about their performances, which we didn't do a whole lot of films about actors and stuff. So that was a good way to kind of get a little bit of talk of performances and also just some good talks of some good golden age directors and films in there, because they both worked in some with some really good collaborators.
I think if I had to go back and change something about the podcast, I think it would have been doing more episodes about actors. One, because I think exploring the performances is something we would often mention or talk about in an episode, but I think it's a really interesting story within film context. And I also think it's something that is how a lot of people who aren't necessarily like studied cinephiles like we are, like people who've had formal education about it, tend to organize and think about movies in their brain. Like there's some exceptions to it, like Wes Anderson or Christopher Nolan, where, you know, the public kind of approaches it from the angle of a director's canon. But for the most part, I think when you go to see when the average moviegoer goes to see a movie, they're thinking about who the hell's in it, to quote the Peter Bogdanovich book. Yeah,
that's right. It's just, I feel like there's a little less to cover in terms of performances for an extended period of time. Especially without using some kind of video format where you can like look at it. Just describing performance with words is a little more difficult.
Which is something we discussed doing a few times, but never came to fruition because it's a lot of work.
Yeah, the video format. Yeah. And also, still, it was still a pretty tight schedule doing it every other week, covering 3 films and turning around the edits. One other thing, one format change that we made in season 2 in 2018 was that we added Jason to our vocal team. And so we had started doing, as I mentioned before, those summaries of each film in order to get the plot into the thing. But it was still kind of like we were just remembering it and we were just trying to describe what happened. And so at some point we realized, all right, we need to standardize this. And so we would write out a summary ahead of time that would include enough plot information that we could reference what happened in the film without feeling like we had to set it up. And then we would have one of our other high school buddies, Jason, who does a lot of voice work, and he would record those summaries for us. So then we could just start talking about the film, reference plot points without having to establish every single thing that had happened up to that point. So I think we started adding those summaries around episode 67. I think that was the Sherlock Holmes episode.
Oh my gosh, I totally forgot about that.
Yeah. And then the last thing that we did that season, so the last episode of season 2 was about different adaptations of A Christmas Carol. And so leading up to season 3.
That was like a 5-movie episode, wasn't it?
No, the first year we did a 5-movie episode that was just like all the Christmas classics. And then the second year we did 3 Christmas Carol adaptations. But then we recorded an audiobook of A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens with ourselves and some of our friends, which was a promotion for the Patreon, which we started in season 3 in 2019. So that audiobook was a lot of work, but it was also kind of fun to put together.
Yeah, kind of the first like mix up with some kind of voice acting with the podcast.
Yeah, and it was just like a little bit different, something else we could offer that might be interesting. I don't know who listened to it besides me and my family, who put it on road trips sometimes, but but it was fun. So yeah, then in season 3 we started a Patreon. We were still every other week. Our Patreon had a bonus podcast where we would talk about either new releases to try and get a little bit more popular talk, or something that nobody asked for except me, which is films that had been released exactly 100 years ago, because we were getting to the point where we were like overlapping that century of cinema where they were making films in 1919 that were worth talking about in 2019. So we did that for a little bit. And we were also posting a lot on social medias in 2019, and that didn't help us apparently.
No, yeah, there was a long time that I spent, especially on Instagram, just like posting film stills and like other like unique facts about the movies and trying to get people to click on it to
I was even posting
like
clips from the audio with our visualizer format.
Yeah. We had a Twitter where I would like link articles that we used as sources or something like that to hopefully drive up engagement.
We would put polls up too for people to choose topics.
Sometimes, yeah, that's right. We had polled topics. Oh my gosh, man, we haven't done one of those in forever. But those are, I think, Patreon only. So
there were some public ones until we started the Patreon, and then I think they all became Patreon.
But there was never high turnout, so it was almost very much what our family.
Like if you voted, you win.
Yeah, if you voted, you got what you wanted, which honestly is a steal. But
yeah, right.
But yeah, it was an interesting way to kind of keep it fresh and choose new. Again, sorry, I've been up for way too long. And to choose new topics that we maybe otherwise wouldn't have chose. And the Patreon was around for a while, but again, just like our viewing numbers, was never super big. If you ever spent money on the Patreon, thank you. That was incredibly nice of you. Yeah. And we appreciate it.
It covered some of our basic expenses for a while.
Yes. Yeah.
Especially which we try to keep low for the whole time.
The cost of renting movies really went up at a certain point.
Yeah.
There was a while where it was really easy to find movies, and then as streaming services kind of diverged and everyone started having their own streaming service, it got really hard. Well, not hard, but harder than it was, and that felt really difficult.
Then I got really excited about the Film Buffy episodes because I knew they were going to be on Criterion or Filmstruck for a while.
Yeah. Oh yeah, back when it was Filmstruck. Yeah, not even Criterion.
Yeah. So yeah, in that season in 2019, we started off with a series of episodes about movie series, about franchises. Again, not really pop culture ones, but a little bit. We did Bond, we did Planet of the Apes, Godzilla, and the Pink Panther of all things.
Yeah, I actually still really enjoy the Pink Panther series. I thought that was a weird and fun one.
I didn't even know there were that many Pink Panther movies, and now I think I probably watched them all. So now I've seen them all.
By the way, the only good one is the second one, A Shot in the Dark. Everything else you can skip.
Yeah. And then our minor series that was spaced out throughout the year was basically just an excuse to try and cover more female directors. So we did a series that we pretentiously called Film de Femmes, films of women, basically. And
we have to make everything intellectual.
Yeah, we had to. So we covered Sofia Coppola, Agnes Varda, and Elaine May. And I enjoyed most of most of that series.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff, and
there probably were some other better choices we could have made,
stuff.
but we didn't know what we were doing. We hadn't watched that many movies directed by females with the intent of watching movies directed by females.
Yeah.
So it was, I should say women, but it's not. It's something you have to kind of learn as you do, like everything else, like we did with world cinema. You had to dive into it until you're doing it consciously, which is one of the things we were doing with the podcast, was trying to watch things consciously and explore specific topics intentionally. Then you don't really know about it, but it was one of the fun things to learn about.
Yeah, I still have a lot of affection. I really like Agnes Varda's work, and that's thanks to that episode from that series.
Yeah, Agnes Varda is great. She's still around?
No, she passed away a few years ago.
Okay. Let's see. In one of her, in Face's Places, she was already pretty.
Yeah. I think she was alive when we covered her and then passed away at some point during the show later. And then we come to 2020, season 4, and COVID happened. So it didn't happen at first. We did a World War II series at the very beginning.
World War II was in 2020?
Yes.
Oh, that's so interesting.
And we recorded our last video episode. We did do a handful of video episodes. Every time Alex would be back in our hometown, he would come over to my place and we would record something on video. And the last one that we did of that was actually in 2020, early in the year.
You know, if you go back and watch those in order, you can see Jonathan's beard get longer.
Yeah, it's much longer now. Anyway, the World War II series was really interesting. I had this thought that there is so many films that are tied to the event of World War II. So much storytelling came out of that, and we went through a lot of it, and it's also not a very cheery subject to spend a full 10 weeks on, or 10 weeks, 5 episodes.
Is that where the Shoah episode falls in?
That is where, because the last one that we did was documentaries from World War II, and that was a hard episode.
Yeah, that was tough. That was a lot.
Yeah. So then something happened in 2020. I can't remember. It's like world event. COVID. Oh yeah, COVID happened. We did an obligatory pandemic themed episode. We also started posting on YouTube around 2020. We had our last guest episode in 2020 because we decided that we just want to pick all our own films. Not because we didn't want to sit down in person with our friends and talk about them. And our minor series.
Well, you were in person.
Yeah, I was in person with our friends that were all still in Texas.
And then there was that one guest podcast where I still don't remember. And granted, I've forgotten a lot of them, but I still don't remember because the next day I had to go to the hospital with a giant infection in my face.
Oh, no. I think there was one that you missed, actually. There were a handful of episodes that either of us missed in the first couple of years. I forgot about that because that hasn't happened in a really long time.
We would like replace the other one with a guest,
Yeah.
For an episode. Especially in the first year or two where we were still super, super, super gung-ho about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just doing too many episodes. So there was going to be schedule conflict at some point.
Yeah.
And then our minor series for that year was sports. And we did a handful of sports episodes because neither of us are big sports people, but we figured there's enough sports films that we should probably talk about them.
Yeah, it's a whole genre.
Yeah.
I will say though, that one was a little lackluster in retrospect. I think the whole idea of the sports genre, we learned a lot about it, but I think at the end of it, I was less enthused about it than I was when we started.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I have very little interest in sports, so it's hard to get super enthusiastic about it just to begin with. But we tried to add some things in there that were interesting. Like I remember we did one of the episodes was documentaries from about sports, and I really enjoyed the Tokyo Olympiad film. Is a really, really cool film. It was
yeah.
I don't remember what year of the Olympics it was, but it was the Olympics film that came out of that, and it was really well done.
Yeah, that one was really good.
Okay, moving right along to 2021, we finally extended our show to a monthly schedule, which was the standard for the rest of the time, which when you think about it, comes to almost a film a week anyway, because we're doing 3 films a month, and that's pretty on par for other podcasts, even if they're doing 1 film a week. So our like canon of films that we've covered keeps up with basically single film podcasts, even though we were only putting out 1 a month at that point. At that point, we also made the Discord public. I don't remember if that's when we ended the Patreon or not.
It was either year 4 or 5, something like that.
Yeah.
Like it was around for a little while.
We also, with the extended schedule, we started adding trailers to each episode just to keep content going on the feed. So it would be 1 week we would... Oh, no. Okay. The Patreon was still going. So we would do a full episode, a bonus episode, and a trailer episode. So if you weren't a Patreon, you would get an episode every other week, one of them being a trailer for the next episode. And if you were a Patreon, you would be getting content 3 weeks out of the month. So that was our plan with that.
Oh, bonus episodes.
Yep.
Oh, man. It's been so long since we've recorded a bonus episode.
And we had a handful of commentary tracks along the way there, too.
Man. The commentary tracks sounded like such a good idea, but they were so much work to do.
They were a lot of work. So yeah, there were a handful of them that one of us would sit down individually and watch one of the films that we had already covered, and we would talk through it. And then that would be made available to the Patreons. But the first one that we did was the last time that you were in town, and we sat down and did a Lord of the Rings marathon. And we watched all the extended editions and recorded ourselves chatting through the entire thing. I might have made those public somewhere. I'll see if I'll try and make sure that there's a link to them on the blog somewhere. But I thought that we got a lot out of that. Like just looking, I have seen those films a lot of times, but I was watching them with a very critical and technical eye and pulled a lot of interesting stuff out of just the technical aspect of how the films were made and the compositions and stuff like that.
Well, you kind of like have to be on too when you do that. You have to constantly be paying attention, and not just paying attention, but actively trying to generate like constructive thoughts about what you're watching. And then if you're doing it with somebody else, like we did with Lord of the Rings, like playing off of that to kind of like go back and forth and create something better than there would have been had you not had someone else there to talk to. It was a lot. It was a lot. I thought while you were talking about what you got out of the Lord of the Rings experience, I was thinking about how dehydrated I got during the Lord of the Rings experience.
That too. From
trying to talk for 12 hours.
Also, drinking coffee at the same time doesn't help. Yeah, we also did, so we did make the Discord public, and we were doing some movie nights for a while there, too, on the Discord, where we would pick a film and use, Teleparty or something like that, and people would sync up, and we would watch the films, and everyone would be commenting on Discord at the same time, which was kind of hard to line up schedules so that there would be enough people to make it worth doing, but we did, and I think they were always films that we hadn't covered on the podcast, so it was always new stuff that we could talk about. But they were related. Like I remember watching The Natural through a movie night, and I think that was related to the sports series, but not a film that we covered in the sports series.
Yeah. And that makes sense, because otherwise it just feels like us repeating the episode back to you, and that's like over a movie, which isn't probably what you're looking for.
Yeah. And then 2022 was pretty much the same setup. Oh, yeah. I think we also, in 2021 and 2022, since we were doing a monthly schedule, it was going to take too much out of the 12 episodes that we had to do series. So we just kind of picked episodes that we wanted to cover.
Yeah.
And so 2021 and 2022 were pretty standard. Oh, you know what? Actually, I don't remember if it was 2021 or 2022. When we went to the monthly schedule, at some point we extended the scope of each episode to cover 4 films instead of just 3.
There was, where we were trying to do 4 films a pop, and it was a lot. It was even more.
Well, the main problem that we found with the 4-film format was that there was almost always one odd film out that just didn't quite fit with the other ones, but we were trying to make it fit.
The rule of 3 really...
It showed its hand. Yeah, it showed its hand big time. We were kind of amazingly able to keep our episode length roughly the same, which I think was a concern at the beginning. But part of the reason to extend to 4 was because we got more efficient about talking about films. And so I think our runtime got a little shorter. So we were padding it a little bit.
There was progressively less stuttering. And I think we got better to it, getting to the points that we wanted to get to. And then
less
kind
fluff.
of already being there. Yeah.
Yeah. So we did that for a couple years, but those years didn't have any like big series, but each episode was a little bigger. And then at the end of 2020, or I guess at the beginning of 2023, we started our courses format, which was Alex's idea. And I think it worked out really well, where we basically turned the entire show into series instead of realizing it would take too much out of the schedule. We were like, well, let's just turn the whole schedule into series. And so we broke the year up into 2 courses, and we would just pick a topic and deep dive on it for 5 episodes at a time, almost exactly the structure that we did with The Hitchhike. And so in 2023 we did, and we broke it up each year so that we each got to pick a series that we were interested in. So Alex started off with the Westerns 101 at the beginning of 2023. And then I did the series of fairy tales revolving around Tolkien's On Fairy Stories essay at the end of that year. And I thought that those were both good deep dives into those topics. The whole courses structure, I think, worked out really well for us.
I mean, the final evolution of the podcast was always just going to be a film class. Like,
yeah, right. That's really what we were.
That was the inspiration for it.
Yeah,
that was the inspiration for it, and that was the end up for it. And honestly, I can't blame people for not necessarily wanting to spend their free time in school. I do it. I'm literally going back for another degree right now. I like being in school, but that's a me thing. It's not a common thing.
Yeah, so I think the only thing that would have helped us a lot is if we had either been picked up by or formed some sort of relationship with some kind of academic institution or something that we could be recommended reading, or like extracurricular study or something like that. But it took us a little too long to figure out that that's what we were, to really take advantage of that.
We could have become the Full Sailings.
The Full Sailings. Oh gosh.
We don't do it as much anymore, but one of the most long-standing jokes on the show, and it's corny as hell from 2 dudes who are basically want to be film professors, is adding lings to the end of something.
Yeah.
And being like, oh, it's us. The Filmlings.
We're the horselings or whatever.
Yeah.
We did one horse episode.
We did have a horse episode. I still love that we have a horse episode.
It's great. I love that we have a horse episode. I love that we have an ice episode. We have
an ice episode. It's kind of a follow-up to the Lost at Sea episode.
Yeah, it is. We had some fun with those random themes. But yeah, I guess we've told this story before, but this seems like an appropriate place to put the name lore. which the name of the show, The Filmlings, comes from my nerdy Tolkien obsession and Tolkien's famous group of writers and collaborators that included C.S. Lewis, where they would share their own work. They would talk about other things and books that they liked, and they were called the Inklings. And so at the very beginning of the show, which I just found one of our original documents that says something like, the show will be called The Filmlings until we can come up with something better. And we never did.
No, I'm not saying that there isn't something better. I'm just saying we didn't come up with it.
Yep. So it stuck. Yeah. So then in 2024, which was last year, we covered the French New Wave, and then we knew that the show was going to come to an end, and I had my last idea for a series was the two-hander of doing a comedy and a tragedy series. And so we were like, all right, we kind of have it mapped out. We'll just go ahead and finish out with those. But Alex, I think smartly, decided that it would be best to swap the order. So we do the tragedy first and end on the high note with the comedy films.
Yeah. Imagine if the last one had been the last few tragedy movies we covered.
Yeah.
That'd be pretty sad.
Yeah. So we structured the tragedy episode around some of Aristotle's classic ideas about what tragedy is for drama. And then the comedy series, which we just wrapped up, was just kind of a history of some of the major comedic movements in specifically American film history. And so that brings us to today. We had just finished the last episode of the comedy series, and now we do this retrospective. So that's all the stuff that we covered. But I have some. And
now here we are.
Now here we are. But I do have some fun facts just to end the show with that some people who've been listening may be interested in. Alex may be interested to know some things about the show as well.
Am I? We'll see. Find out next on the retrospective of the retrospective.
Sometimes I like to just think about films and wonder if Alex thinks that we've covered them on the show. Alex, did we ever cover Alien?
God, we should have if we didn't. I'm going to say yes.
Nope, never covered Alien.
Really?
Yep.
That's wild. Oh, man.
I don't know why. That's just like some random question that I've always wanted to pitch to you.
Man, that would have been such a good one.
It would have been very good. I think we had... Okay, you know what? We did an Alien episode, but it was all about nice aliens.
Oh, yeah.
So that's a little bit of a trick question.
We should have done a mean aliens one.
I think I wanted to. I think that kind of got turned into the robots episode, which was basically mean robots.
Aliens and robots, yeah. And that's a shame, too. Think about all the shade I could have thrown at Ridley Scott for all the crap he's done since he decided he didn't care anymore.
I think he hadn't totally thrown in the towel at that point. But yeah, there's been plenty since we started this show that Ridley Scott has just...
And we did a whole Ridley Scott episode.
We did do one before you were bitter about it, I think.
Before I was very comfortable sharing my opinions about these things. I think maybe once I realized that not that many people would ever hear it, I was like, okay, yeah. I'll share my opinion on it.
Honestly, now, that does help.
Honestly, even if a lot of people did listen to it tomorrow, if the retrospective is the one episode that for whatever reason has like 100,000 views, like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that my comments about Scorsese got us our first ever dislike on a YouTube video.
Yes, that is true. Yeah, we got a couple of dislikes in the last couple episodes because we got some hot takes. We used to call it hot take soup.
Did we get? Yeah, we did. What was our other dislike?
Hold please. It was all pretty recent. I think it was all from the tragedy.
Yeah. And also I knew at that point that we were ending the episode and I was stressed about work because I got I've received a promotion recently, which was really wearing me out. So yeah,
we got a dislike on our betrayal episode, which I'm assuming is because it includes RRR. I don't know. People always are mad about how we cover Indian films.
yeah.
I haven't checked all of them recently, but I don't think we have any episodes that are split opinion. Like we either have a couple of likes or like one dislike or nothing, but we don't have like a 50-50 split, which I would kind of like to see somewhere.
Hey man, what can I say? We rile them up one way or the other.
Okay, so we have here, and I do want to say for anyone who's just finding us that I've tried to be very organized with our show. So if you're going back through it, the blog is pretty well organized with its categories, and you can search. There's a list of every film we've ever covered in alphabetical order, so you can look for a film that you like and see what episode it came from. The YouTube channel is all organized into playlists so that you can kind of find the topic that you're looking for. So it should be pretty easy to find stuff.
I would love it if this was the first thing somebody listened to from the show. like it would just be so funny to me. Like the first thing you watch of the show is the retrospective. Like, heck yeah, man.
Yeah. It's like, it's like archaeology. It's like, I've tried to build a civilization around this show and now it's all in ruins, but you can go explore the ruins. It'll be fun.
There you go. Just wait until this is rediscovered in 100 to 200 years.
Yeah, well, the nice thing is that we didn't cover a bunch of new films because then the show would just get kind of old. But we covered old films that were always old a lot of times.
I still remember, and I
haven't seen a new film in like 5 years.
I have not been watching a lot of new movies either. Probably the newest one I've seen is Fall Guy.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes I'll watch a new movie when I'm over at like my parents' place and they just play whatever like the new Netflix release is. And it's always bad. Like that's not even me being a snob. It's just, it's straight to streaming, not low. I can't necessarily say low effort, but like from above the line, low effort type productions. So it's, yeah. I don't know. There's probably lots of good stuff that's coming out. I'm just, oh man, I'll be honest. I'm a little burnt out on watching movies. I kind of need a break.
Yep. All right. Well, let's talk about the films that we have covered. So we have covered 525 films in total. Do you have an idea what the lowest rated film that we've covered is?
Lowest rated by
this is all
rating?
based on Letterboxd.
On Letterboxd. Oh. Well, it's not The Room.
That was one rule that we had when we started the show. At least it was a rule I had, was we could never cover The Room.
Did that end up being a bonus episode?
No, we never talked. I mean, we mentioned it, but we never covered it as a movie.
Really? We never actually covered it. That's crazy.
Nope. But you're on the right track with where the lowest rated film would come from.
Man, I don't know.
We did a So Bad It's Good episode. It's one of those films.
So Bad It's Good. Can I look up? I'm going to look up the episode just to see what my options are. Give myself multiple choice.
I could tell you. Yeah.
What are the options?
It was Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Okay. I love that movie.
Sharknado. Birdemic, and Velocipaster.
It's not Velocipaster. Velocipaster is brilliant.
Of those four, what is the worst or the lowest rated?
My guess. So I'm going to give you reasoning. Velocipaster is genuinely amazing. It's not. It barely fits the concept of the episode. It's a true indie film.
Yeah, that's right.
And let's see. Birdemic is popular because of its time on MST3K, so it's fine. Plan 9 from Outer Space is like a classic. Sharknado is kind of just like a cynically made money grab movie, so I'm going to guess it's Sharknado.
You're close. Sharknado is the second to lowest rated, but Birdemic is actually the lowest.
Birdemic. Okay, well, hey, that's fair. That's fair. I guess if you watch the whole movie and not just the MST3K version of it, then you probably not like it.
Yeah, but Birdemic, Sharknado, and Plan 9 are the 3 lowest. And if we take that episode out, though, then the 2001 Planet of the Apes with Marky Mark is the lowest rated and has been for quite a while. I
forgot that movie existed.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Mark Wahlberg in Planet of the Apes.
All right, now take a stab at
What are you doing to me? You damn dirty apes.
Yeah.
I gotta go work out in the gym again.
All right, now take a stab at the highest rated film that we've covered.
Highest rated.
According to Letterboxd, filmy film people.
Oh, Parasite.
We have not covered Parasite. I've never seen Parasite.
You've never seen Parasite. That's crazy, especially considering how much you like.
I know. It's too new. I need to, now that we're not doing the show, maybe I'll have time to go watch it.
So here's the thing with Letterboxd. Anything that's older, people get really opinionated about, especially because they think that having a controversial opinion about something that's older, especially an established classic, makes them, I don't know, edgy or cool. And so none of the older classic movies are going to be the highest rated. It's not going to be Citizen Kane. Almost guarantee it. But what
we did
would
cover
be
Citizen
it?
Kane.
We did cover Citizen Kane. But what would be it? It'd be something newer.
I will say I'm very interested in this list of our highest rated films that we covered based on our
that's right, because you have the ongoing Letterboxd list. I was like, how does he have all this information? Oh, he made a list on Letterboxd, which I have not been on Letterboxd in almost a year now.
Yeah, I noticed. The last film that you have on there is weird.
But it probably was something my parents had on. I was like half-heartedly logging at that point. Like there was a period.
Like Red One.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Probably from Christmas, but like there was a period of time, especially earlier on, even when we were doing like the 3 movies a week, where I was watching 20 movies a week or something. Yeah, like that.
I was gonna say that because one of the goals,
crazy insane.
One of the goals with the show was to watch. I actually found in one of our opening documents, it was like we wanted it to be every episode would include one film that one or the other of us had not seen before, at least one film. And at some point that became unfeasible because you had watched everything. And I was like, I didn't have time for that.
Yeah. No, yeah, especially because my current job, it's impossible. There's no, just because of the security involved, there's no access to technology within the boundaries of my work. But the job I had at the time was in post-production. And so I'd be working like 14, 15-hour shifts, and I'd work with my hands for 4 hours maybe. But I'd sit there for 12 as I rendered these 4K video files that I knew would be mastered in 1080. And it would drive me up the wall insane, but it took forever. And so I would just sit there and watch 4 movies a night, on Filmstruck or whatever. And so, it might sound silly even at the rate we watch movies now, we watch probably more than the average American watches at least in a year. But think about the rate that we were cranking out in those early years. When I say that I'm a little burnt out on watching movies, I'm pretty burnt out. I need a break. I want to go back. I have lists on Letterboxd that I want to go back and finish and watch more movies and enjoy them, but I just cannot.
Yeah.
I need it to be something that I don't have to do, that I can do purely because I don't want to do anything else. But
there was a point when I would watch your like diary entries on Letterboxd, and these are films that I like have been wanting to watch and I just didn't have time or whatever. And then we would get to one of them on the show and you'd be like, Jonathan, have you ever seen this film before? And I was like, no, that's why I put it on the show. You just watched it like 2 months ago because you have so much time.
Yeah. Yeah. And now, ironically, I have no time.
Yeah.
It's how it is.
All right, highest rated.
Highest rated. Oh gosh. I'm going to say, because I can't think of all of them. Inception.
No.
I don't think that's right, but I can't remember all of them.
I will say, okay, so the first Christopher Nolan film is pretty high up. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's 10. It's number 15, and it's actually The Dark Knight.
Better not be Tenet. Wait, what is it?
It's actually The Dark Knight.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Because a lot of folks on Letterboxd are still unrepentant fanboys. That's right.
Yeah, I was gonna say I expect that more on IMDb, so I'm a little surprised. But no, this I don't expect you to get this, and I'm interested that it is a great film, and it really struck me when I watched it for the first time.
Is it a foreign one?
It is a foreign one, and it is Japanese.
Okay, what is it? Japanese.
And it is a samurai film. I'll give you all that much. But it is
Seven
not
Samurai? Seven Samurai
is not Kurosawa.
Whoa.
Seven Samurai is number 3, so it's pretty close.
Harakiri?
It is Harakiri. Yeah.
Okay. I was saying, Harakiri is like what normally one of the top rated movies on platforms.
Yeah.
I just didn't remember we covered it.
It is really good.
Yeah, no, it is a great movie. Yeah.
So the top
that makes
3
sense.
are Harakiri, Come and See, which is not a fun movie to watch. And
which one's that again? I don't remember.
That's the Russian film about World War II.
That one's depressing as hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh man. If there's one episode I kind of regret because it was too depressing from the world tour, it was the Russian episode. It was interesting but so sad.
Yeah, I think that was part of our World War II series, but yeah, there's a lot of sad Russian films that we covered.
Do we do Ivan's childhood?
Yes, we did, because we did a Tarkovsky episode.
That one's so depressing.
I'm actually currently reading Tarkovsky's Sculpting in Time, and my plan, now that the show is over, is to go back through Tarkovsky's canon again, because I'm really interested in it.
I thought you were going to say to launch the Sculptinglings.
The Sculptlings.
See, that's how the joke works, guys.
That's Okay, this one's going to be easy. What is the longest film that we've ever covered?
Showa or Out 10, Out 1, whatever it is?
We didn't do Out 1. Remember, you changed it.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we changed it because I was like, it's too long.
You're not that crazy. Yes, Showa, which is 9.5 hours. And then L'Amour Fou, which is also Jacques Rivette.
Oh, yeah. That's like 4 hours, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. And then Hamlet from Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah, that one wasn't too bad.
No, but it is the full text of Hamlet, which no one ever does. So it's pretty long.
Yeah.
Okay, the shortest.
The shortest movie we covered.
So
I'm
actually,
guessing...
it's from the same episode as Showa.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be something super niche then. I don't know, man.
It was Night and Fog by Ellen
Night
Renee.
and Fog. Okay, wow.
Yeah, because that was like a half-hour documentary, but that was
another documentary, yeah.
very rough. And then Sherlock Jr. after that.
Sherlock Jr., yeah, a silent film. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now about our episodes themselves. We have a total of 172 main show episodes, not including trailers and stuff like that, and one special episode in which in 2022, when I had my first baby, and we actually took a week off or a month off, and we released our commentary for The Fellowship, where I cut out all the pauses and released it as an episode. So 173 episodes, including that one. What do you think the longest of our episodes was?
All the Lord of the Rings commentaries put together?
Well, if you did that, yes, but we're not including commentaries, just main show talkie talk episodes.
And there were some that we just went off on and just talked and talked and talked. The one where we set a record, though, because I remember you talking about it, was not that long ago.
It was pretty recent.
Was it one of the French New Wave ones?
It was.
Was it Truffaut?
No, it was Godard.
It was Godard. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, he's a
So-
spicy boy.
Yeah, and also Godard was the first of the French New Wave, so we had a lot to cover just to set up the series too.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was our longest episode is 2 hours and 19 minutes. And we only have 3 episodes that ever got longer than 2 hours.
That's crazy to me. I thought we were over 2 hours pretty regularly for a while.
No, we're usually pretty good about being like hour and a half to hour 45. But do you know, or do you want to take a stab at the shortest episode?
Shortest episode. The Spielberg episode, because we didn't know what we were doing.
No, actually, because we were pushing ourselves past that hour mark for a while.
Oh, yeah.
We have 6 episodes under an hour.
Wow, really? I'm actually surprised at that. I thought we always topped an hour. I don't know, man. What would it be?
It's a pretty old one.
Pretty old one. It's is it Lost at Sea?
Nope, not quite that old.
Oh man. Is it one of the sports ones?
No, but it is from a minor series.
Hepburn versus Hepburn?
Yeah. So the third Hepburn versus Hepburn, which to be fair, we had already been talking about it, and each of those episodes only had 2 films. So that was the last episode of a series of 2 film episodes. So there's not a ton to talk about.
Yeah. In retrospect, that would have been better as like 2 episodes, one for each actress,
Yeah.
and then like a community poll at the end. But
All right. Now, these may be a little skewed because I don't understand how the algorithm works and blah, 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 blah. But what do you think is some of our top listened to episodes?
so here's the question on this, Jonathan.
Yeah.
What are we considering the canon listen to count? Like Spotify, Apple, YouTube?
So I only have solid numbers on Spotify and YouTube, which are separate, and I'm considering them separately. So I'm looking at
Okay.
each, but if you just pick something that has been listened to a lot, we can
Well,
get a
on
ballpark.
YouTube, my guess is going to be the Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers episode.
That one got surpassed, but it was that for a very long time.
Was it? Oh gosh, it would have been something that came after that, so really recent. Oh gosh, would have been during the series probably. Is it the tragedy episode where I go off on Scorsese?
No, it's not that one. It is a tragedy episode, and it correlated with a I think I mentioned this to you recently, but
With a hot take?
No, it correlated with a film event recently that we accidentally lined up.
Film event.
It was a celebrity death.
Who'd we kill?
Who did we kill to get the views?
The Killings. I don't know, man. Oh, dude.
All right, it was the Tragedies of Misunderstanding episode where we covered the Elephant Man and then went on break for a month, and in that month, David Lynch died.
Oh, David Lynch died. Oh, yeah. Okay, and that would probably spike SEO, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so we have 800 views on that one on YouTube, followed by the Rogers Astaire episode, which has 473 views, and then we actually almost passed it with the silent comedy series recently, which has 471 views. So it will probably pass up Rogers Astaire pretty soon. I don't know why that one blew up because the rest of the comedy series has not been performing well. But yeah, we got a lot of views on that one. We got a lot of views on the French New Wave series too as it was coming out, because what I realized when I dug into the numbers is that the tags for things like French and romance put you as suggested viewing on some seedy YouTube videos. And so we were getting suggested on like some pirated films of like
French romance.
of like romance trash films. Anyway, so that's our YouTube views, and then on let's see, on Spotify it looks like our most listened to episode, which is kind of surprising actually, because I don't know how SEO works for Spotify specifically, but the Eric Romer episode is our top performer.
That's
there.
Really random.
And in fact, the entire French New Wave series is our top 4 episodes, except for Chabrol, which is down at like number 10 or something, or 8.
So weird, dude.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal with the French New Wave is, but they shot up there because some of our older episodes, like Taiwanese New Wave, has also been way at the top for a long time for no reason. And then French New Wave.
Taiwanese New Wave is great, man.
Well, yeah, it is great. And I think sometimes those really niche things just like have shot up occasionally, but that was part of your thought with moving to the courses format is we will hit on a nerve sometimes, but there's nothing to follow it up because we jump to a completely different thing the next time. So the series was a good way to kind of like, if you're interested in the French New Wave, you can hang out with us for like 5 weeks and get more content.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. If you lined up all of our main episodes, excluding the one that we just recorded, because I haven't edited it yet, what is the runtime of all 172 episodes?
I'm gonna guess 320 hours.
Not quite. We're at 249 and a half hours. So that's like 10 and a half days. If anyone wants to binge through the backlog, it'll only take you a week and a half straight listening. So yeah, we ended up covering almost 70 directors in our director episode category. And oh yeah, the other thing to mention for new people is we only had a couple rules when we started. We had the format, and then we had a rule to never cover the room, which we achieved. And then at some point during the show, so for a while when we would introduce our films, we would talk about how many Oscars they had won. But at some point we had ranted about how pointless the Oscars are so many times that I decided we were not allowed to mention the Oscars ever again.
Yeah, that's why we call it the award show that shall not be named.
Yeah, so we will sometimes say the award show that shall not be named, which is the Oscars, and that just keeps us from going on a rant about how the Oscars is just a vanity project and it's all rigged anyway.
It's all about how much money you spend, man.
Yeah.
Just like that's what I was thinking when we were talking about the that indie movie by Sean Baker that won the Oscar. I was like, it's not about whether or not it's a good movie or whether or not Sean Baker's previous movies were good. This one, just for whatever reason, had a huge push during award season. Like they were interviewing on shows constantly, trying to get their presence out there and really, really pushing it. And the thing that I found really funny this year, Jonathan, did you see that thing about how now there's a rule from the Academy that all of the voters have to actually watch the movies?
What?
Yeah. Oscars now require, Academy has implemented a new rule requiring members to watch every film in a category in order to vote in that category.
Oh my gosh. Have you heard of the film Paint Drying?
What's that?
Have you heard of the film Paint Drying?
Paint drying. No, I haven't. Is it literally just paint drying?
Yeah, so I came across
Sounds
this
like
recently.
a Warhol thing.
It kind of is, but it's more reactionary than that. So this guy was trying to get some film. He wanted to get like his short film screened at a festival or what was it? It had to get like rated or something, but you had to pay to get your film approved or whatever. But the guy realized he didn't have the money for it, but he realized that if you pay, then they have to watch your film in order to approve it or give it a rating or whatever. And so he started a Kickstarter to make a film of paint drying, and however much money the film raised is how long he would make the film, because how much you had to pay for the film depended on its length. So he raised enough money to make a 10-hour-long film that the whole board had to sit there and watch all of in order to give it its rating or whatever it was. But now apparently on Letterboxd, it's become a place where people just come and they like rant. Like, it's become Tumblr. People will just post reviews for that film, which you can't watch anywhere, but they'll post reviews that are just like them expressing themselves.
Okay, I gotcha.
Anyway, same idea. Okay, so that is all my fun trivia. But I have a couple of questions, Alex. Is there anything like that has kind of stuck with you that you've discovered through doing the show, like a best film or a favorite director or something like that, that you remember like, oh, we watched this for the show and I was like, realized it?
Let me look at the website. I want to have access to the information, so I'm telling you something that's meaningful. Oh boy, wow. We watched Lincoln? Oh, was that in the Spielberg one? Oh, yeah. Crap.
Very early.
Oh yeah, all the Batman ones. Oh. Well, I guess he's probably one of my favorite animated directors now, although he's not alive. But Satoshi Kon and Paprika is something I never would have watched because that was a guest pick.
Yeah, that was Jason. On
the show. And now he's probably one of my favorite directors. He's really good. I would never have discovered my hate of King Kong 1970.
That's true.
1976, which for a long time was the whipping boy of the podcast. Or at least my whipping boy of the podcast. I would have never discovered that watching Tarkovsky movies make me seasick.
I can see that.
I really enjoyed I really enjoyed the Korean episode we did. That was a very good one. I still really like all of the directors. And from there, I try to go back and watch them whenever they come out with something new. King Hu from Taiwan with the wuxia filmmaking. Oh my god, that stuff was so good.
A Touch of Zen kind of blew my mind too.
I went out and got A Touch of Zen and The Dragon Inn on Criterion Blu-ray because they're just so good.
Yeah,
they're so fun, and I don't think anybody. Anytime anybody's over, I'm like, I don't think you're going to enjoy this movie. That's actually a problem. It's like I don't know people here who enjoy watching the movies I watch. They're a rarity. Yeah, especially because I was spoiled because I lived in LA for a while. Although I will say in LA, it was getting to a point where we only watched the new stuff because people wanted to stay up with the trends so they could talk about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which again kind of goes back to what we were talking about with the in that last episode about the weird true believer culture in Hollywood with the Fall Guy. I loved watching all the Godzilla movies. For the Mega series, which was their series of Mega series, I went through and I didn't just watch the ones we covered. I watched every single entry in the series. James Bond took a long time. Godzilla took longer.
Yeah.
But watching all those Godzilla movies was seriously so fun.
Yeah, I did. I watched a handful, but I didn't go through all the Godzilla ones. I had already seen all the Planet of the Apes ones, I think, which is why I wanted that one included. I did go back and watch all the Pink Panther ones. I think I did.
I still think about the wandering camera on The Long Goodbye, like pretty regularly.
Yeah.
Like, and I've seen a few Altman movies for the, especially when we were prepping for that show, but that was a really good one. And there's something like very evocative about the way that camera moves around that never really left. And speaking of
I'm going to pitch in.
shots
If
that
we're just
stick with
going
you,
through all these, I'm going to pitch in some of these.
I mean, that's kind of how I'm processing it. But all of the flowers in Les Bonheur
Yeah, I was about to mention Les Bonheur.
was very, like, the imagery in that is so captivating.
That was one of those films. There are a few films where it's like you could be watching the film and you kind of are tracking with it, and then the very last shot or scene of the film just like puts a punctuation on it. And Les Bonheur is one of those where it has a very striking ending that puts the rest of the film in perspective.
And then just the sheer dissonance between somebody who, if you're not paying attention to the details of what's going on, does not seem like an evil or bad person, but if you really like actually pay attention, is a pretty callous individual who's doing some pretty cruel things to the people around him. Mikey and Nikki is still maybe one of my favorite movies we've ever covered. It's got such an energy to it from Elaine May with John Cassavetes in it.
That whole Elaine May episode is such a roller coaster because A New Leaf was one of my family favorites. It's really witty comedy. Speaking of comedy, that is really witty, situational, verbal, character-based comedy. And then Mikey and Nikki is such a just dark drama of betrayal and tension. And then Ishtar is just so bad.
We did a whole episode on Mary Pickford.
We did, yeah. We were trying to get more silent films in there.
I'm honestly happy we did, because Mary Pickford is a fascinating character in the history of cinema. But I'm just very surprised we did that.
I think that was your pick.
Man, we did that John Carpenter episode, and I was so into John Carpenter for like the next 2-3 months. I was so about his movies.
I ended up going on a road trip with a producer recently, and he's into movies too, and so he knows I do the podcast, and he was like, let's pick an episode of the show to listen to. And we listened to it pretty recently, and I'm always terrified to go back and re-listen to old ones. But what happens
What dumb shit did I say?
No, it was actually the few times that I've done this, I'm actually pleasantly surprised. So like, oh wow, we made some good points. Sometimes it'll be like I will anticipate a thought and then I will say it out loud in the podcast, and I'll be like, oh wow, I guess I'm still on the same wavelength.
Oh, hey, I think just like this guy. I wonder how that happened. Man. Oh, yeah, we did a whole episode on musical artist biopics, which is such a sub-genre.
That was a Jason pick. That was Jason's
pick, yeah.
There's been several big ones since we did that episode.
Ooh, oh. There have been, yeah. There was even that year where, like, Rocket Man, I think Rocket Man and the Queen one came out. But the Bohemian Rhapsody, man, I saw Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man in theaters, and Rocket Man was so good, and Bohemian Rhapsody was so bad.
Oh, man. Well, they also just did the Bob Dylan one.
They did. With
Weird Al did one for himself.
With Daniel Radcliffe in it as Weird Al, which is really cool.
Yeah.
Edward Yang from with the Taiwanese New Wave. And then he also has a couple other movies that I ended up watching afterwards. Taipei Story and A Brighter Summer Day, which are so...
Oh, I didn't watch those yet.
Like nostalgic and sad. Like all of his films actually are so nostalgic for this period in time and place which I've never been to, but I feel like I maybe understand it now because I've watched that movie, which is really impressive. Like that kind of connection to a thing, is really good.
I will say the Rider really struck me. I really liked the Rider a lot.
Oh, from the horse episode?
Yeah, from the horse episode. No, actually, no. The Rider was in one of our sports episodes. It was an individual sports film because rodeo is like a sport you do by yourself, basically. That was my way of like getting us away from organized sports.
We were really pushing on that one. The Terry Gilliam movie is super fun.
Yeah, that's wild, right?
Oh, and we forgot to mention we did a whole episode, another female director episode by Lynn Ramsey, which was really good with Ratcatcher and You Were Never Really There. You Were Never Really Here.
Yeah, I will say she's very good at what she does, but the tone of her films is not something I want to spend a lot of time with. So
it's heavy. Yeah, it's dark. Oh man, there's the Pride. Well, is that more? Pride and
we
Prejudice?
watched. No, that was
No,
Jane
'cause we
Austen
did
adaptations.
just Pride
though.
and Prejudice, and then we did another one that was Jane Austen. Oh my gosh!
I will say Emma is something that stuck with me just because there are sometimes when it's like I'll come across a story in a certain way, and I had read a lot of Jane Austen. I've read all of her stuff now, but I had not come across the story of Emma, and that one just kind of like hit me on a personal level. Like that moment where she insults the older lady and then immediately regrets it is one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, it's you got to watch what you say because you can hurt someone really fast.
Yeah.
And the film did a really good job of like making that impact.
It looks like this next stretch of episodes just looks so fun. There was the terrible movies one. Then we did Ernst Lubitsch. Then we did Studio or Cartoon Saloon, which
Cartoon
is
Saloon.
amazing. I don't think Wolfwalker was out when we did this. It was really recent, like 2020.
No, it was.
We did.
Is on the
we
list.
did.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We got all four of them. Yeah, Wolfwalkers is amazing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The Breadwinner is also really good, but it's so depressing compared to the other three.
Yeah, that was the odd one out.
And then of course we did Jacques Cousteau, which is an amazing one. And then we did Jackie Chan, which is an amazing one. And then we did, I don't know what the next one is. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatball, 21 Jump Street, and Lego Movie.
And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Are those all the same? Oh, Lord and Miller. Oh,
Lord and
wow.
Miller. Yep.
Okay, I was just saying, were they all, how did that go together? Oh, we did the weird meta adaptations one? Or are those all the same director?
Yeah. Look at him.
Oh, Spike Jonze.
Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah, but that's his thing. We did The Human Condition, which was rough.
It was really good, though.
Excellent movies.
And then we threw in Qui-Gon because we had to hit 4 in that at that time.
Then we did the Bill Wilder.
It was Wyler, Billy Wilder and William Wyler back to back, which was just some really good, solid golden age films.
Then we did some old musicals, some old mob movies. Mm-hmm. We did Face Off. I forgot about that.
Yeah. Oh, because that was John Woo. Because it was John Woo.
Oh my gosh, yeah, John Woo. What the hell are you doing?
They're remaking The Killer, actually, and it looks terrible.
Great.
Yeah, The Killer is perfect. It needs no changes.
Great. Face Off is ostensibly a terrible movie that's highly enjoyable.
Oh yeah.
And Red Cliff is like the Chinese version of a Marvel movie. And that's not a bad thing. It just is. And then it looks like some Shakespeare.
Well, yeah, actually, that wasn't just Shakespeare. That was Laurence Olivier. That was one of our
because he plays the Nazi in Marathon Man. That's right. Okay. I was like, how is Marathon Man in here?
Yeah, that one's a little bit of a stretch because he's not really in it that much.
How to Train Your Dragon is an excellent series. The Kirasami's an excellent series.
Taylor stayed awake through all of Taste of Cherry. So when I watch films with my wife, it is a complete toss-up when she's going to be zoned in and when she's going to be zoned out. So usually we could be watching the most exciting thing ever and she will just pass out. Sometimes honestly, we will watch Taste of Cherry, which is an Iranian, like the slowest film of a guy just sitting in a car talking philosophy. Yeah, talking philosophy and suicide with people for 2 hours, and she was on the whole time.
Dude, you should really put like a tracking indicator on each episode on the website. Like, did Taylor sleep through this or not?
Yeah, right.
My favorite thing about the Kiarostami movie, though, is that there's 3 movies in a row that are each about the making of the previous movie.
Yeah, that is a next level meta.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
So
oh gosh, and then we did a time travel one.
We did time travel. The ice episode actually turned out way better than it should have. Actually, I didn't realize we did the horses and the ice back to back.
What the hell were we thinking?
The ice episode turned out way better than the horse episode, but the ice episode, like Everest, genuinely, I think Taylor said she had nightmares from it, but it is a terrifying film. Touching the Void is also terrifying.
Everest was deeply upsetting to me just because of how dumb the climbing tourism industry on Everest is.
Yeah.
How risky it is. But I guess they all signed up for it. I don't know.
After we watched that, I wanted to work into the show later, the documentary about the Sherpas.
The Ray Harryhausen episode was awesome. The John Ford episode was weird just because of how much time it covered. So much time.
Well, that dude
is that the start of the Western series?
Yeah, that's the start. So yeah, now we're getting into the more recent stuff. So we did.
I'm very glad we covered Sword of Doom. Sword of Doom is an absolute classic that it should not be as good as it is, but it is.
Yeah.
Especially because it's like unfinished or something. And then
Musashi. I have a. That's one of those films where the last shot of the film like totally changed my perspective of it, kind of.
And then I'm glad we watched the first of the Samurai trilogy, but I highly recommend to anybody who hasn't to go back and watch other ones. Also, I'm really glad we watched the more spaghetti westerns, including Duck You Sucker, which is one I hadn't seen before, but was
so fun.
So fun. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then we added Rango, the Rango-sode.
Yeah, you got Rango in there, which is one of Jonathan's like pocket favorite movies.
I don't know why.
Me neither, but it is good. It's very entertaining. Hell or High Water is a really good movie that was up for the Oscar of the year it was out. It's maybe a touch Oscar baity, but it's not terrible. And then,
all right, Alex, I need to get the show's over now. I need your unfiltered opinion about how the fairy tale series went, because I really enjoyed diving into the fairy tale films.
I liked the individual movies. I had such a hard time connecting with the overall structure of the fairy tale episode, and it wasn't the text that was the trouble for me. It was trying to get back to a central point, I think. Right? Because I think the fundamental idea of shaping each one around an individual storytell or fairy tale, or like at least a familiar enough fairy tale, like, you know, Undine and Ponyo, or both mermaid tales. That makes sense. But I think the thing that fundamentally tripped me up was that so much of Hollywood movie production is already a fairy tale. So I think that kind of became the disconnect for me, was that I don't think I found enough uniqueness was added when we translated into a specific fairy tale that existed as a folk tale. Like, it's another made up story. That's all fairy tale really is a made up story. Maybe because it comes through like the cultural background, it's a little different. And maybe because we play on it over and over. But that's kind of what movies have become in a lot of ways anyway. Like Batman gets remade every 3 years.
Yeah,
is it a fairy tale because it's retold again and again in different formats? I don't know. But we saw a lot of very interesting movies. Oh my God, I will say, I really enjoyed Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Which you have to say it like that.
The Italian one was terrifying.
Absolutely bonkers. But as we talked about in that episode, the most faithful adaptation.
The most faithful. Absolutely terrifying. I do not necessarily recommend watching it while it's dark outside, or if you've had any mind-altering substances. I will say, having to go back and watch Disney-specific movies was not fun. But there was one new one that I hadn't seen before, which I'd never seen, Maleficent. So it was nice to check that off the list. But a lot of the other ones were really cool.
Maleficent did
I
not
do have
need
a
to
soft
be
spot for AI. I think it's a well-made movie.
I really
even though-
enjoyed that. Yeah, I had not seen that one before, but I found it fascinating.
I think it maybe doesn't hold up super great in the end. The end kind of makes a really big sci-fi jump, which isn't terrible, but it is kind of feels like it takes away a little bit from everything else that happens in the movie. And then, of course, I loved going back to see Ponyo. Love that one. Donkey Skin was weird as hell.
Donkey
but
Skin,
don't
I
hate
enjoyed
that.
discovering that. And that led us into the French New Wave stuff, which was
Yeah.
a wild ride.
And we had the French Beauty and the Beast, which I think is an all-time classic of, fairy tales filmmaking. And Ugetsu is just cool. It's nice that that got in there too. The French New Wave really appealed to my idea of like the perfect structure for what the courses would be. And that's just because there happened to be like 5 dudes who always get lumped together. Like it just worked out really
and it
well.
was just, it was directors all the way through.
Yeah. And it was just very, very easy to structure and to kind of form ideas around that and then therefore build up each week because we had the stacked categories where each week you could talk about the director and at the end of the episode you always had something new to say because you compare and contrast that director to everything that came before him in the series.
I loved the 6 moral tales. I thought that they were all fascinating. So I'm actually glad to see that Eric Romer is at the top of our rankings for some reason. Godard, it's hit and miss for me. Truffaut a little bit too, but and I will say Jacques Rivette, I was struggling, and then Celine and Julie Go Boating just was amazing. That movie came out of nowhere, but I was locked in all the way through. It is just wild, but
it's really good
in a great way.
It's very fun. It's very whimsical. It kind of captures a whole tone and pumps it into one thing that just is through and through. Yeah, I really like Chabrol. He was kind of like this surprise standout for me.
I liked him too. The Good Girls took me by surprise at the end.
Yeah. They all have a good way of doing that. Man, yeah, no, that was good. I agree with what you're saying about Godard. Godard's kind of so up his own butt about film and trying to be. He tries so hard to be a rebel that there ceases to be a point to the rebellion other than feeding itself, which I guess is an inherently French thing to do.
Yeah, it was almost like
Pierre, but
Godard moved away from accessible film and Rivette almost moved into accessible film somehow.
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting to bookend those.
Yeah. And then we have the Tragedy series, which has a lot of really good movies in it.
Yeah, that was one of the ideas was just like, let's hit a lot of stuff that we've danced around, but, stuff that's just standouts.
And of course, we got to touch Wong Kar-wai. I don't know if I'm saying that right. I hope I am. But he's one of my favorite directors of all time, too. All of his love stories, like Chungking Express, is amazing. I regularly hum California Dreaming because of Chungking Express more than because of the song. And I highly recommend him. One of the episodes I always wanted to do, but I don't think we ever did, was a Wong Kar-wai episode.
About that. Yeah, I was going to ask, what do you think we missed along the way?
Yeah, like my ideal season 1 through 4 episode would have been a Wong Kar-wai with In the Mood for Love, Chungking Express, and Fallen Angels.
Yeah,
that would. I think
I watched Chungking Express, but I still haven't seen Fallen Angels.
Fallen Angels is also very good. They're just really good. He's got such a vibe to his movies and such a longing. Like I've never seen somebody communicate desire so effectively. In terms of not just making the audience desire something as well. Like that's easy enough to do if you show the right thing, but to communicate the character's desire to the audience and the longing and the kind of bittersweet sadness of his movies is so potent. And of course they always end in a tease, which it is kind of rude, but also kind of the point is that it never ends.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing that I thought that I was almost certain we were going to come back around to at the beginning. If not, we would have picked a different episode or a different film for the single film that we covered of his, and that was Bergman. We never did a Bergman episode.
Oh yeah,
and so
that's
we
surprising.
did at the end of World Tour. We did 3 films that were just kind of extras because there wasn't like, there's not so much a Swedish film industry as there is Ingmar Bergman, and so for Bergman on
Carl
that one,
Dreyer would like a word with you.
Well, yes, that's true. So there were a handful. We did 1 or 2 Dreyer films, but we picked Hour of the Wolf because I was like, I want to sit, because we had done Stalker in the Russia episode, and I was like, oh, we should have saved Stalker for a Tarkovsky episode because that's like the big one, and we weren't ready for it because we just discovered Tarkovsky, and I was like, okay, so we got to save Seventh Seal for the Bergman episode, and we never went back and actually covered Bergman, but yeah, I felt like we should have done Seventh Seal and some of those other ones. Although I will say, every time I watch a Bergman film, I feel a little icky afterwards. Virgin Spring is so hard to watch.
I think that's his intent.
Yeah.
Bergman was one of those guys too who really was not well. But yeah, and then finally the comedies again, man.
And then the comedies. So that's the show. That's a lot of our...
That's a lot, frick ton of movies, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. So that is Diaries of a Failed Internet Content Stream.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd say failed. It existed for a long period of time.
Yeah. Of a... let's see. I think it was successful for ourselves. It just was not it just never took off. Like, I feel like it had a lot of opportunities to hit something and do the internet thing where it's like someone picks up on it, shares it. Because part of the thing is we didn't have that many people that wanted to talk about nerdy film stuff with us, which is why we started doing it in the first place, posting it online. Yeah, there was not a lot of people for us to share it to, and then it just never hit a pocket online that was able to take it and run with it.
Yeah,
but it had plenty of opportunities over the course of 8.5 years, and with the diversity of stuff that we covered.
I think we would have had to have optimized for it. And honestly, with the way that people who do get big enough to make the online media thing their livelihood, seeing the way that's evolved over the past decade, not something that I necessarily would want to be involved with.
Yeah.
One of the big reasons why... It does seem to be
a game of escalation.
Yeah.
Where it's like once you get started, you can't stop. And people, and then until you post something that's like, I'm going to stop chasing the algorithm. I'm going to post what I want to post. Or you do your, I'm leaving YouTube video.
Yeah. Essentially, the content we would have had to have made would not have been the content we wanted to make. And one of the reasons I left Hollywood was because I was just making stuff for other people, not stuff that I wanted to make. And so if we had done that with the podcast, we would have been doing that same thing where we were making content for other people, not necessarily content we wanted to make. And we wanted it to be both, but that's maybe not a thing, at least not something to the degree where you can...
Not something you can plan for.
Not something you can plan around, not something you can build a livelihood off of. So, it's did not work out how we thought, but that's how it goes.
Yeah. Well, what's next for you, Alex? Where are you heading off to into the bright sunset?
Oh man, I am. I still work for a semiconductor company, and I am working towards a degree in engineering. Right now I'm doing an associate's. I already have a bachelor's in film, but you know what? I told my bosses that, and they were like, cool. So, so what? So I'm working on a STEM degree, and I'm working on maybe getting a graduate degree after that in the same field, which I can do because I already have a bachelor's. But that would be a long way down the road. So almost all of my time has been eaten up by class. Right now, I'm taking like Calculus 4 and C coding, like coding in the C program language. So I spend a lot of time doing schoolwork, no time watching movies. I didn't remember to watch the movies for this episode until like 2 days ago when I was already in the middle of the work week because I had 3 midterms this month. So here we are now. I'm all caught up, I guess. I still have math to do before midnight tonight. But yeah, that's what I'm on about. I've got plenty of stuff to do.
What you got anything creatively going on?
Creatively going on. Oh man, I run a lot of D&D campaigns.
Yeah.
It's probably the most creative thing I do right now. It's something I don't have to fully polish, which is nice. And it's something that's highly collaborative, which is doubly nice because it means I'm not creating it on my own. It's created in full at the table. And the people who I would otherwise be creating it for, my players, are also responsible for creating it. It doesn't work unless they contribute to the storytelling happening at the table. So that's kind of what I'm doing. How about you, Jonathan?
Well, I do freelance video production, so I'm always creating something or other, and I'm working towards making my business more geared towards things that are, I don't know, worthwhile, I guess, as opposed to just corporate stuff. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I have 2 kids now that I did not have when we started this show 8.5 years ago. And so that takes a lot of time. That is also a creative effort, by the way. A lot of creativity involved in parenting. Yeah, I have a lot of like random hobbies and various creative things that are just like piecemeal started and slowly picked away at as time allows. But yeah, for the most part, I think I'm not sure what my relationship to movies is going to be after this. Honestly, I think it's going to, because for so long it's been only watching movies that we do on the show because I don't have time to watch anything else. So I don't know if, and I also am a big reader, and so I want to channel more energy into reading my backlog of books, but I also still have a backlog of films that I have discovered through doing the show as just tangential things that I want to watch. So I'm interested to see whether or not my film habit goes into some new kind of like film study just on a personal level, or like where I'm going to find the time to watch films that are just really obscure that my wife doesn't want to watch with me, or if it's all just going to kind of take a back seat for a little while. So I don't know. It feels weird to think about films outside of the podcast, and I don't know what that's going to look like exactly.
I think what I'm going to try, I'm thinking I'm going to take a little break from watching anything at all. And then when I get back into it, I'm probably going to try to watch stuff without thinking about it. Try to do it like instinctually. Try to get back into that part of me that's like, just sees something intrinsically, wants to watch it, and doesn't think about like the academic value of having or have not watching a thing. Because I think that's an element of if we were missing anything towards the back end of the podcast, it might have been that.
Yeah, I will say I do have like a monthly thing set up with my brother who will come over and we'll watch films together. And we were going through all the Ghibli films, but we got through them all. And so the thing about my brother, Chad, who's a longtime listener and commenter on the show in the Discord, is we have completely different tastes. Chad loves the schlocky, so bad it's good films, and I'm always trying to understand Tarkovsky better or whatever. And so that's a good way to kind of round it out, is for us to watch films together, and we watch some films that are great and some films that are just fun.
Yeah, I'm almost tempted to just have something randomly generate movies for me to watch.
There is literally a letterbox list called Random Movie Roulette that is annoying because it always pops up no matter what film I'm looking at. I'm like, I want to see a different list than this one.
Because it has all the movies in it.
It just has all the movies, and you use a random number generator to pick which one of that list you're going to watch. Oh, the other thing you could do is, I don't know if you still have Criterion, but
sometimes
the Criterion channel has a live playlist now that will it's just 24/7 streaming movies. I don't even know how to find what movie it is, but sometimes I turn it on and see if I can identify it, which I have not had good luck so far, which means I've not watched enough movies, apparently.
There you go. Gotta get back to it, man.
All right. Well, that is our extensive retrospective of what we did on the show, how we thought about it, how we feel about it, some fun facts, and now Alex needs to go to sleep.
I do need to go to sleep, guys. Well, I'll talk to you when I talk to you.
All right. We'll chat later.